Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, it's beyond any doubt that Pakistan immensely sacrificed for Afghanistan and for its people. Always tried to have brotherly relation with Kabul. But soon after 2021, Taliban's interim authority started following anti-Pakistan path, given refuge to several banned terrorist outfits including TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban, arming, facilitating and joining them to inflict terrorism inside Pakistan. Just some days back, Interior Minister Mohsen Naqvi held a press conference and categorically said that March 26, 2024 attack on Chinese engineers and their driver was actually planned in Afghanistan. In continuation, Interior Secretary visited Kabul, handed over concrete evidences to Afghan interim authority. But next day, Kabul denied the proofs as well as said that there was no involvement of TTP in that attack. It was unfortunate. Pakistan-Afghanistan relations deteriorated over the past few years. Despite of several calls from Islamabad, Kabul never took things seriously. Not even the decisive action against all those banned outfits who have took refuge at the Afghan soil, including TTP. Never dismantled its safe havens, never disarmed, never detained or handed over TTP leadership to Pakistan despite of several calls. Rather facilitated and armed them as per UN and international reports, which is a clear threat to Pakistan's security, and it was reiterated during the Formation Commanders Conference which were held earlier. To discuss this whole ambit of the serious security issues and particularly the deterioration between Pakistan and Afghanistan bilateral relations, we have in our studios Mr. Hassan Khan. He is a senior journalist. Most welcome to you, Hassan. Thank you very much for your time. Hamza Amir Khalil, he is expert in international relations. Most welcome to you, Hamza. Thank you very much for your time. And online joining us, Salman Javed. Mr. Salman Javed is DG Pakistan Afghanistan Forum. Most welcome to you, Salman. Thank you very much for your time as well. And my first question started from you, that Pakistan has made no doubt that lots of sacrifices for Afghan people. Then why Afghan Taliban treating Pakistan as their enemy rather than their friend, and the terrorists as their friends actually? Why is such an anti-Pakistan attitude existing in Kabul, and what makes them to behave like that?
Thank you so much, Faisal. I would like to take this opportunity to put forth some points that it is not only the Taliban that are taking this path. Unfortunately, the baggage that we carry, both states carry, the baggage of relations with each other, it is somewhat very bumpy since the inception of Pakistan in 1947. So there is a historic baggage that we need to discuss, that we need to bring in our discourse and see where things went wrong. From 1947 till 1979, when the Saur Revolution came, and there was an upheaval in Afghanistan, there was a continuous proxy war which was perpetuated by the Afghan rulers towards Pakistan. After that, 80s came in, the 90s, and then war on terror came in. During last 20 years, in last 2 decades as well, Pakistan always tried to send this message to the previous Afghan regimes as well, that there are people sitting on their soil who are being used by some other stakeholders in the region like India, and they are launching proxies inside Afghanistan, but that was never considered. Now, in this time period when Taliban took over, there was a kind of expectation from Pakistan side that probably they will try to mitigate this situation, probably they will listen to Pakistan, probably they will see what Pakistan has done in last 2 decades for Afghanistan and especially for its people. But unfortunately, things went down spiral, and it's been almost 3 years now that Pakistan is trying to establish some kind of communication channel where Afghan Taliban may understand that this particular issue of TTP, until and unless it is not resolved, nothing can sustain between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And this is the only bone of contention right now between the two states. There's nothing else which cannot be resolved. There is no issue which cannot be settled on through dialogue or through certain meetings of the high-profile delegations. But this one issue it has not been settled by the Afghan Taliban. Now, why are they doing this? We understand the purposes of, or we may, say that we might have understood the purposes of the previous regimes of Afghanistan, why they gave their space for such organizations or such proxies. But why Taliban are doing this? The only reasonable answer that we can find is that probably they think that they owe something to TTP because of their assistance to the Afghan Taliban in the resistance against the American and Allied forces during their stay in Afghanistan. So I think this is something which needs to be discussed openly, and not only by the people of Pakistan and academia and media, but also by the state apparatus. And they need to perpetuate this discourse that this alliance, this unholy alliance of TTP and Afghan Taliban needs to be exposed to the world aggressively. And probably that is how
absolutely right. So, Salman, as you have rightly pointed out, that might be it is because of the leverage which was given to the TTP is because of their internal reasons. So, why is the growing mistrust between Islamabad and Kabul, despite of having several communication channels existing, including a joint border coordination committee to review the security issues, and primarily this terrorism related and all other issues are related to the security. So, is there any resistance from Kabul that they are not cooperating at any fora, and the communications which are actually gone through from Islamabad are actually they are not adhering it to because of their internal issues or the lack of will or the lack of capacity?
So there is there is a need to put on record that for last 3 years Pakistan is continuously trying to send different delegations, not only through state channels but also through non-state actors, and trying to talk some sense into Afghan Taliban that they should be settling this issue of TTP with Pakistan. Now the issue is that there is a streak of high-profile visits from Pakistan side towards Afghanistan. Probably there is only 1 or 2 high-profile visits from Afghanistan sides to Pakistan, and that was also at the occasion of OIC. Apart from that, I think FM Muttaqi came a couple of times more, but no other high-profile delegation came to Pakistan. Only Pakistani delegation, high-profile delegation, which includes Minister of Defense, your Chief of ISI 2 times, and then the previous Corps Commander of Peshawar, your National Security Advisor. These people not only visited Afghanistan but also tried to talk some sense, pass on a message to the Afghan authorities at highest possible level that this issue should be resolved. But unfortunately, like you said and you mentioned, that if there is a lack of will, there will be no results coming out of it, and this is one of the reasons. But the other reason is that I actually see, or I observe when I go to Afghanistan or meet with people over there or try to talk to them, is that there are people sitting in this system as well who belong to the previous regimes as well, and they have a kind of
your point well taken. Your point well taken, Salman. Hassan, as Salman just said, that there is a lack of will among the Afghan interim authority. So, how do you see the Kabul's non-cooperation towards Pakistan, as Islamabad several times demanded that to disarm TTP, detain them, refrain them to facilitate them, and also hand over the TTP leadership to Pakistan, but Afghan interim authority never adhered to and seems that completely reluctant to do so?
Thank you very much, Faisal. I think Salman has dwelled upon the historical aspects of this issue, what were Pakistan's expectations and how the Afghan Taliban came into power, and then how Pakistan continuously interacted with them at various levels and keep on engaging them, trying to engage them on this particular issue. But unfortunately, the response so far, it's not what we call it a positive one, or the way which Pakistan was expecting from Taliban to be. I think this is quite unfortunate. The situation, this is not only disturbing the situation in Pakistan. I think what inside Afghanistan is right now going on. You might have heard the recent report of the human rights violations.
Yes, definitely.
There are reports, it's not only the Pakistan which is saying that Afghan soil is being used by various terrorist syndicate, but the UN report has pointed it out, the US report has pointed it out that Afghan soil is being used, and either Talibans are unable to act against them or they are unwilling to do it. And look at the Pakistan statement. Pakistan is not directly accusing the Amarat-e-Islami, the Taliban government, of helping or facilitating them, but keeping an eye close over the TTP activities. They are using Afghan soil, they are coming to Pakistan, and even being supported by the Afghan nationals. So I think what I am looking at the entire situations, this is totally now a different ball game. I think there is certain powers want to keep the pot boiling in the region, and you know, this is for a larger context. So if we want to understand the issue, why Talibans are elected, who is keeping the Taliban feeding so far? I think you might have heard of the recent reports, Cigar reports, where during the last 2.5 years, or let's say 3 years, $17.19 billion in cash have been given to Amarat-e-Islami and to the Afghan government. So it means that somebody is feeding them for a bigger. So Taliban's reliance on Pakistan, that has gone, I think, too down. It's reduced now. It is quite unfortunate that Taliban, instead of focusing on their own system, developing their own system, developing their economies, promoting their businesses and trades with the neighboring countries, they are so much used to this cash.
Your point is actually very close to reality. Definitely, you are absolutely right, Hamza. This time, Pakistan actually demand, in the backdrop of the killing of the Chinese engineer in Bisham, and the bus was actually attacked, and Interior Minister's press conference was very clear on that aspect, that he said, and I quote, "Attack was planned in Afghanistan by outlawed TTP." So that is very clear.
Yes.
That's why Pakistan was very hopeful that might be Afghanistan is going to cooperate on this aspect, because they have the same stakes with China what Pakistan has. So what do you think about that?
Basically, Mohsin Naqvi Saab also pointed towards foreign intelligence agencies as well. We need to understand that there is a clear nexus between BLA and TTP as well, and they are utilizing the Afghan soil to basically attack Pakistan. We also need to understand that the Afghan Taliban are only in control of Kandahar, Jalalabad and Kabul. The rest of the Afghanistan is not in their control, and I am going to explain it. What actually is happening, the reason the Afghan Taliban are actually unable to disarm the TTP is because they can risk a civil war. It is going to raise a civil war between TTP and Afghan Taliban. Furthermore, what is happening that if you see the Doha agreement, they have not been able to fulfill any of the promises they made. They have been unable to fulfill the stopping of terrorism. They have not protected the human rights and women rights. They have not been able to, stop cross-border terrorism and such. And they have not been able to protect the ethnic discrimination. As a result, what is happening is that the Tajik Taliban leaders are defecting. Just recently, in May 2024, Abdul Hamid Khorasani, he basically defected and joined Northern Resistance Front, which is being led by Ahmad, son of Ahmad Shah Massoud. And what actually is happening is that India now, using the north of Afghanistan, is infiltrating its intelligence network to basically ignite the northern resistance. In the meanwhile, it is also arming Daesh, and at the same time, it is infiltrating the ranks of TTP and Afghan Taliban to manipulate their policies. Right now, India is playing a three-dimensional game, not a double game, but a three-dimensional game. We need to understand that, which I just explained. Igniting the northern front, arming TTP and Daesh, and manipulating the policies of Afghan
BLA
Taliban.
as well.
And BLA as well. So as a result, we can understand that it is clear-cut that while India is showing a liberal face to the world, that we are basically funding and developing the projects inside Afghanistan, what it is actually doing is using hardcore realist policies and destabilizing Afghanistan, because it understands fully that a destabilized Afghanistan would mean a destabilized Pakistan, and the focus of Pakistan
because
would shift
Afghanistan and
from Kashmir
Pakistan's fate are
to-
interconnected. You are
Yes,
absolutely
exactly.
right. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Hassan, how do you see that the Afghan interim authority behavior as they condemned the attack on the Chinese? But they also leveled allegations that Pakistan actually is trying to sabotage their relations with China. And they outrightly advocating that the TTP was not involved in that attack. So how do you see that?
I think this is quite bizarre to say that Pakistan is trying to create a gulf or differences between the growing relation between the Chinese and the Amarat-e-Islami. I think this is, nobody is going to buy this argument. But what we were expecting basically, and they have been what you call it caught off guard, was the reason that as far as the Bisham attack is concerned, you know, the investigation was jointly conducted by Pakistanis and Chinese authority.
Yes, definitely.
And they established the fact that no doubt there was a failure on our part also, because the truck remained in Pakistan for almost 15 days when he crossed Chaman, came to Job, then to D.I. Khan, then to Malakand division, then to let's say right up to
definitely,
Shangla,
that's
Shangla,
another
etc.
question, that
So
how
is another question.
that explosive laden vehicle came to Pakistan came to that space.
But that is, it doesn't mean that I will not point toward your part in this whole drama. And that was Pakistani and Chinese investigators established. What Pakistan point was that who were the who organized these things, who planned this attack, who facilitated, who arranged the vehicle, and who brought the vehicle here, who were the facilitator here at the local level. So all the details, then the Interior Secretary of Pakistan went there, interacted with that. I think this is
definitely, you are absolutely right. This we get from Salman as well. So Salman, Pakistan was very hopeful, as Hassan has also pointed out, that Interior Secretary's Kabul visit, initially it was thought that there was some urgency within Kabul as well to cooperate with Pakistan. They handed over investigation findings and concrete evidences related to the Bisham terrorist attack. They sought assistance, and Afghan side first agreed to cooperate, and then right after one day they dismissed Pakistan's findings and investigations. So how do you see such an attitude from Kabul?
Well, it becomes very rhetorical when we answer this question, because over and over again we have discussed that there is a lack of will from the Afghan side. The Afghan interim government, or IA, is actually trying to cover their failures over here, I would say, because on one end, now there are two aspects to it. What our other panelist has just mentioned, that Afghanistan's interim government claim that they have a full control and authority over the territory of Afghanistan. And they also claim that they will not let anybody use Afghan soil against any other country, particularly the neighboring countries. But at the same time, when TTP uses their soil, they deny it and try to establish a plausible deniability factor that, look, it is your internal matter, so you need to sort it out at your end, and we are not letting anybody use our soil. If we have the evidence, if Chinese have the evidence that it was perpetuated, it was consulted over there, and you actually gave them the cover, then it means that your control on your territory is not well established, because there is some third party or a fourth party which is actually using these proxies from your soil. So you need to set your house in order as well. If you will not do it, obviously things will escalate, and probably we will not be seeing a very good picture in the future.
Definitely. And Salman, what do you think about the repatriation of the illegal foreigners from Pakistan? Do you think that that has also brought some sort of peace and stability within the country, and some sponsored activities in which particularly some of the Afghan citizens were used deliberately by these outlawed terrorist organizations, and at least lowered some of the terrorism graph in Pakistan, the crime, smuggling? So far, at least I think so, around 700 1,000 Afghans along with other foreigners or repatriated from Pakistan, deported from Pakistan?
So there are two aspects of this repatriation. One is the humanitarian side, the other is the security element. From the security point of view, obviously Pakistan might have seen some kind of semblance because of this repatriation, and Pakistan is now quite probably in a better position to manage the rest of the Afghan refugees over here or the illegal immigrants. The other aspect is obviously humanitarian. We need to see that if we are actually trying to establish good relationships with the Afghan people, I'm not talking about the Afghan government, but the Afghan people, then we need to be very considerate about it, and we need to see that either our policies are going to sustain in the long term or are they going to backfire to us. So this is a very delicate balance that we need to carry out, and definitely, like you said, that there is a kind of semblance in the security arena, and Pakistan is in a better position to manage these refugees and illegal immigrants in our own territory.
So, Salman, is it correct that the cash-strapped Afghan Taliban extended their leverage and using TTP and others as proxies basically, and these elements are well connected with India and a source for funding as well? So, Afghan Taliban wants it too, that that must have to come to Afghanistan without any hindrance using the banking channels and all others. So, to have that linkage with India to investments and then infrastructure development and the availability of finances through such kind of proxies, do you think that this phenomena is correct?
I already mentioned this in my previous statement that there are two aspects of this, two dimensions to this particular question. One is that the answer is that Afghan Taliban claim that they have a full control and authority over their territory, and they are a sovereign nation and they do not let anybody else to use their soil against any other country. But on the other hand, TTP is sitting over there getting funds from somewhere. You cannot pay them because you actually cannot pay to your employees and your people as well. So whosoever is funding TTP is someone else, and that whosoever, that is India or some other stakeholder from some other region, probably coming over here, like Hassan Saab mentioned, that they would want to keep this region boiling at a point where there is no sustainable progress may take place in the near future. So TTP is getting funds from somewhere. ISKP is getting some funds and logistical support from somewhere. So you need to set your house in order. You need to claim the authority in its truest sense. If you claim it, that your soil is in your control, then you need to control it properly so that no one else may use these proxies from your soil against any other country, particularly against Pakistan.
Your point well taken, Salman. Hamza, Pakistan conducted an airstrike in April to target the TTP hideouts there inside Afghanistan and openly announced it. That was actually the Pakistan's departure from the previous policies, because earlier we were never announced such an attack. So do you think that now it is a clear message to Afghan Taliban to change their course, but unfortunately nothing changed even afterwards?
Well, the airstrikes were necessary to be done. It was basically to give the TTP a message that no matter where you are going to hide, we are going to come and bomb you. But in international relations, one or two strikes cannot change the nature of a state. Basically, what is happening that Afghanistan itself right now is unstable. And it does not have funds to even basically give money to their own people. They do not have even the aid because of the frozen assets. So what actually is happening, that these strikes are actually not going to change anything. What Pakistan needs to do is they basically need to conduct sabotage-based operations behind enemy lines and basically target those foreign agencies which are actually funding these terrorist operations.
But you know, you are absolutely right. But the thing is that in an international relation, we have to take the sovereignty first, and then afterwards we have a very close relation with Kabul, and we don't want to, that is basically the urge which is existing in Islamabad, that we don't want to sabotage actually these relations with Afghanistan. But actually you are absolutely right. Hassan, how do you see the recent message, very clear message by the 83rd Formation Commanders Conference held at the GHQ, that was on May 30th, 2024. The forum expressed serious concerns over continued cross-border violations from Afghanistan, the terrorism being orchestrated using Afghan soil, then noting that Pakistan's adversaries, what we were talking about, were using actually the Afghanistan to target the security forces and innocent civilians inside Pakistan.
Look, I think this was quite essential, and definitely this was what we were expecting from our top military commanders to come up with a clear message, particularly when it involves the defense of Pakistan or the defense of the Pakistani people. So definitely this is what we were expecting, and they have to come to up that expectation. So definitely they pointed out toward the problem. The problem is that terrorist networks are existing in Afghanistan, inside Afghanistan. And this is not only Pakistan which is saying it, the international community is, I think, unanimous about it. That,
no doubt.
Terrorist networks, various terrorist networks exist in Afghanistan. And as I said in my earlier statement, either the Afghan Taliban doesn't have the will to fight against them, or they don't want to do that. So the formation commander statement was quite, and then it was followed by Interior Minister statement, and who definitely said after that, you know, the Interior Secretary visited Kabul and he shared information with the relevant authorities there. The problem is, I think, I think the misfortune of the region is that we seems to be not in command or in control of the situations. I think most of the things, I don't say that the fault lies in the stars. I don't say it. The fault lies definitely. It is on the ground. I think how to approach this issue. We have tested Taliban or the Amarat-e-Islami for almost 3 years, and we are continuously trying to get them to come forward for the sake of the region, for the sake of Afghanistan, the peace in Afghanistan.
But the problem is that if they don't have will, if they don't have will, no power on earth can convince them. If they don't have will, if they don't want to do anything.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, that we have tried our level best for the last 3 years. We have also engaged the Chinese in this game, and we sent shared our informations, our joint investigation with the Chinese. And the Chinese, you might have read that story in South China Daily, where it says the Chinese felt that Taliban have backstabbed them by killing their national on Pakistani soil. So definitely the Chinese displeasure was quite clear and loud, as the Pakistan was. But at the moment, I think, Faisal, we have to realize, at the moment, Taliban over-reliance is on the US cash money. And as I said earlier, almost $6 to $7 billion are being given to Amarat-e-Islami or to the Taliban by the US. And this is the money which is given on record, like it has been recorded in the Segar report. So maybe there is another, what we call it,
we'll talk it further on those reports as well. Salman, is this notion correct that Kabul's incapacity and threats from Daesh or ISKP, which is Daesh Khorasan, what we call it, and led them to join hands with TTP, or joining them prevent TTP and Afghans not to be the part of Daesh at least? So even if the TTP do anything against Pakistan, it's all right for Afghan Taliban that they think that the TTP is fighting Kabul's war with Islamabad. Do you think so?
So this is one reason that they used to give whenever we used to talk with them, or we used to ask them that why are you not able to act against TTP, or at least settle this issue with Pakistan. So the only answer that we used to hear was that if we will start some kind of aggressive behavior or operation or some kind of activity or policy being implemented which may hinder the activities of TTP from themselves, then there is a potential danger that they will join ISKP. But I think this notion has also been debunked in last few months. Because ISKP is one threat that they are dealing with, but TTP is something which actually they can manage very easily. If they think that they owe TTP, then TTP also owes them a lot. And at the same time, TTP is not their citizen. They are there in a refugee status. From the perspective of international law, from the perspective of law of the land, they are bound to hand them back to Pakistan. And this is where Afghan Taliban are actually a kind of illusion or delusion for the rest of the countries and people, and for their own people as well, that look, we are not going to give up on TTP. because they supported us in our resistance against the allied forces. And this is a kind of contradictory statement that on one end they say that TTP is going to join ISKP, and the other end say that we are not going to give up on them because they supported us. So they need to settle their narrative first, where they do stand. Is it because they feel they are a danger from the TTP side, or is it because they do not want to give them for the ideological reasons?
Salman, thank you very much for your presence online. Thank you very much, as you have to go somewhere. So thank you very much for your time, and you deliberated each and every issue very well. Thank you, so nice of you. Hassan, as Salman is very clear on that aspect, that we have seen over the years that unfortunately the Taliban has a certain behavior which is not going to change. So if with such kind of behavior, do you think that we are at the path, as you have rightly mentioned about some of the reports? So do you think that those reports which are straight away coming, they adhere it, they accept it, and they act accordingly, and they want to interact with the international community, engage with them?
Yes, I think it's quite unfortunate that Taliban's positions, we Pakistanis are in catch-22 situations. We can't sever our relations with Kabul, and we can't carry this baggage with the situation which is existing right now. What I am advocating, I think, keeping an eye on Afghan side, this is not only the Taliban which have this behavior, I think, uncooperative behavior with Pakistan. Before that, it was the what we call it, the Republic, whether it was Dr. Ashraf Ghani, whether it was President Karzai. Before that, whether it was the Mujahideen, even the Mujahideen.
It's basically the Afghans' instinct.
It's an inherent, I will not use the word instinct, but it is an inherent thing in the Afghan psyche, unfortunately, and especially. But there are other things also. The Afghans have been time and again told right from their childhood that what's going on in Afghanistan, Pakistan is squarely responsible for it. It is not only done by the Afghan government or the Afghan intelligence agencies, done by the, as mentioned by my friend, that India is hugely involved in this in building anti-Pakistan.
And we don't have to forget that Afghanistan was the only country.
Even the Iranians too, because everybody want to keep Pakistan out of this soil, because for Pakistan, as you rightly mentioned, that Pakistan and Afghanistan are so close to each other that you can't separate. The reason is their destinies are shared, and the famous statement of President Karzai, they are conjoined twins.
Yes, no doubt about that.
So for that
we
reason,
never denied that.
Even Afghans can't, I think, can't do it to distance themselves from Pakistan. Neither Pakistan do that. What is the best solution? I think let's sit and talk. And as I said earlier, maybe we are squarely accusing the Taliban. Maybe there are other forces and bigger forces.
But for that, at least Kabul has to point it out that there are other forces, even in those conversations which are behind doors.
Kabul is not in a position to do that. Kabul is being fed by somebody continuously. Kabul is being kept alive by somebody.
So what the sense Pakistan get out of that? It means that it is because of they are unwilling to do that, and they are doing everything against Pakistan deliberately.
Faisal, I think I will suggest Pakistan need to talk to the masters of Amarat Islami, to the masters of Taliban at the moment, who is feeding them, who is keeping them alive, who is advocating for them at the international forum, etc.
You are pointing towards Washington?
I am pointing toward Washington squarely, because $17.19 billion have been, it is not given to Pakistan, to any other country during the last 3 years. We are just, I think, crying for $3 billion a year from IMF, you know it very well.
Because of the services they are giving to the
so definitely they are being and you just to add one thing, you might have heard a statement of a Russian defense secretary or defense minister who pointed out that Talibans are the watchmen of the US interest in the region. So I think we are trying to we are not focusing on that aspect. We just squarely attribute.
Means you are absolutely right. Means that Pakistan, Islamabad must have to take this issue with Washington, at the highest level.
Those who brought Taliban to power, those who facilitated Taliban to power, so I think Pakistan needs to talk to them. And I definitely use the word masters of Taliban for them.
Okay. Hassan, your point well taken. And you were actually referring to the US reports earlier on. That was again recently a US government report to Congress in which it was noted that the ruling Taliban in Afghanistan actually continue to allow senior Al-Qaeda leaders, the TTP and the other terrorist groups to operate in Afghanistan. The Russian defense minister, CSTO meeting recently held, and he made a remark that Russian defense minister Andrei Belousov said situation in Afghanistan remains the main source of instability in the region, and in Central Asia particularly. So China says the Taliban has to act against TTP, ETIM, East Turkestan Islamic movement, but Kabul is mum.
I think this is quite interesting that Kabul doesn't have that capacity or that strength to face the entire world. But despite that, what I am saying that US is the first country which is pointing toward human rights violation in Afghanistan, especially by the hands of Taliban. It is the first country accusing the Amarat Islami or Taliban of not acting upon the Doha agreement, which the US has facilitated them bringing to Kabul. US is a country which is pointing toward the existence of terror network in Afghanistan, particularly the Al-Qaeda, ISK and TTP, and even telling the world that Al-Qaeda is now capable enough to strike the US interest outside Afghanistan. It means that they are capable to strike the US interest in Europe and even in the mainland US. But despite that, US is feeding Taliban continuously $50 to $40 million cash per week, or it is per day, etc. So the whole amount in 2.6 year, 2.7 year is $17.19 billion. The US. So it means that Talibans are damn caring for the Chinese, whether Chinese are happy or not, for Pakistanis, whether Pakistanis are happy or not, for the Iranian, for the Russians, or for the Central Asian. They only care for what Washington is saying.
But Hassan, ultimately it is going to be a very short-term business. That is not going to be the long-term thing.
Taliban is a project. You have to keep one thing in mind, Faisal. Taliban is not going to stay in Afghanistan. This Amarat Islami is not going to stay in Afghanistan. They are being treated by the international community as a project. As a project for what? I think to stop CPEC going further, to stop BRI going further, to block this Chinese influence beyond Himalayas, etc. So these are the big, and for that you need
and act as a buffer zone to create some sort of a mayhem into the region.
The Russian Interior Secretary has rightly pointed out that you need a watchman sitting here on this side to inform you, to provide you. Look, so Taliban's existing on Afghan soil is a direct invitation to the US to come anytime of the day or night to here to Afghanistan. So definitely Chinese, Americans have interest in Iran, Americans have interest in Chinese, Americans have interest in Russia. They are keeping the Russian engaged in the region.
Whole of the region because of the containment of China policy.
Containment of China policy, containment of Russia policy, etc. So for that you need the, so I may be wrong. I'm not saying that I'm 101%, but I'm looking at the situation. I'm looking at the ground. I'm reading what is going on there.
So Hamza, as Hassan said, what's your thought on the successive reports by the UN Security Council's Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team, which states that Afghan Taliban continued to be sympathetic towards TTP, supplying them weapons and equipment, Afghan Taliban reportedly joining TTP for their sake in conducting cross-border raids against Pakistan?
These reports are absolutely correct. What actually is happening, what we need to understand is that there is complete freedom of movement for the terrorists. Moreover, the highest echelons of Afghan Taliban, they do not have any control over the battalion commanders. Battalion commanders who have only learned their whole life to fight, their purpose would be over if there is peace. What they actually want is more war, more fights. So what their battalion commanders
means you are saying that Afghan military is basically operating in chunks.
Yes.
And led by different warlords.
Yes, exactly. That is happening, and they are contributing and working with the TTP to conduct those raids. And Afghan Taliban are reluctant to accept it, because if they are going to accept that this is happening, it would mean an end to the
They don't have any administrative or managerial control upon them.
Exactly.
It means that world will again bombard them that if you don't have any control, why you are in Kabul.
Yes, especially at the moment when Russia is close to recognizing Afghan Taliban.
And someone else as well.
Yes.
So Hassan,
yes,
I'm coming to you. Some reports suggest that the Islamic State, Khorasan or Daesh is spreading at the dangerously fast pace in Afghanistan, and Kabul failed to control them as they are failing to control their own people. They are involved in heinous attacks within and outside Afghanistan, even Pakistan, Russia, Tajikistan and other countries are the victims of it. TTP and others are actually growing under the umbrella of Daesh. And why Kabul is not taking decisive actions against those who are actually even inflicting pain to them as well? Why?
Look, Faisal, let's speak the truth. And I think the truth is, right from President Karzai down to President Ghani, etc., all of them were calling Daesh as a child of the of Americans. Americans were trying to all the bad boys in Middle East. They were just brought here. They were provided a space here. Even they were accusing the U.S. when President Karzai was in power. He was accusing the U.S. of providing them armament, etc. But what interesting thing is going now in this region is that gradually now U.S. to divert this narrative of Daesh being a U.S. branch, a U.S. interest in the region, they are gradually doing it in accusing Pakistan for keeping Daesh in its region. And look at the Taliban, what Talibans are doing. And this is what US is using the Taliban's mouth to communicate with the world that Daesh is being nurtured on the Pakistani territories just to destabilize Afghanistan. So this is, I think, what I am saying is Pakistan need to come up clear on certain issues. It's not only just pointing finger at the Afghan sides. I think too much is going on, Faisal. And tomorrow, Pakistan will be squarely made responsible by the US and Afghan authorities for being responsible for Daesh.
That is going to be a very dangerous scenario.
It's going to be, and you might have heard the news that the Afghan Taliban's Amarat-e-Islami is telling the world that Daesh is being kept and raised inside Pakistan. On whose pointation is Amarat-e-Islami is doing it? So I think Pakistan needs to gear up for the new building narrative.
There is someone behind the curtain,
So
no doubt
definitely
about
they are
that.
out to us
Definitely,
going
and they are actually operating Taliban as robots to act on their signatures. So, Hamza, Taliban interim authority has not been formally recognized as a legitimate government by the international community. So, do you think with such an attitude which is going on and prevailing because of the Kabul, they are creating a worse situation for not only for themselves but also particularly for the Afghan population to suffer in future?
Well, it is quite understandable why the international community is not recognizing the Taliban. What we need to understand more is that not recognizing Taliban is adding to the suffering of the people because they are unable to get the international aid. And as Salman Sahab mentioned, the already funds which they are getting are covert. So where they are utilizing is not known. And there is acute food shortage for 12.4 million Afghan people, and they are suffering as a result of not getting recognition to the Afghan Taliban. And Pakistan, on the other hand, despite not recognizing the Taliban, despite facing terrorism, is helping the Afghan people through transit trade and through food.
So, your point well taken. Hassan, do you think that whatever is going on, the neighboring countries or in the regional countries to come, they must have to, as you have earlier pointed out, that we all have to sit together, not only Afghanistan and Pakistan, Afghanistan first, and then the regional countries as well, if we want to bring a real-time peace in this whole region. And that was actually floated by the PM PM Shehbaz Sharif earlier in the PDM government, and that was not adhered properly by Kabul as well. In that aftermath, actually, Pakistan's high-level delegation also visited Kabul, as you have pointed out about Khwaja Asif and the DGISI and all others. So, why Kabul is not even ready to negotiate on these important subjects?
Look, Kabul so far is trying to shun this narrative that Afghanistan is a bad soil, Afghanistan is a dirty soil being used by the dirty networks for whether it is TTP, whether it is IMU, whether it is ETIM, whether it is Tehrik-e-Taliban, Tajikistan, etc., whether it is Daesh, whether it is ISIS, SKP, etc. So they are just presenting themselves to be the neat and clean boys of the region, and they are in full control of the entire Afghanistan, and nobody can just, even the bird can't fly without the permission of their Amir, especially Sheikh Hebatullah. But I think you rightly pointed out in the first part of your question that it needs a regional approach. That's why I am telling you from the beginning that Pakistan's need to adopt another approach. Instead of just going straight to Kabul, via Torkham, etc., we need to use another routes. And another routes might be the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is the regional forum. And in that forum, Russia is there, China is there, Pakistan is there, Iran is there, the Kars are there, Central Asian republics are there. So all are there. So they need.
If you just briefly tell me, because we have run short of time, if you just briefly tell me that what the regional countries, we have earlier a 6 countries forum as well. So what China and Russia can do, because it's a regional issue, must be dealt regionally.
Look, I think Chinese and Russian have to understand one fact, that the boiling Afghanistan is just for their sake. It's not for Pakistan. US is not interested to keep the Afghan soil boiling just to keep an eye on Pakistan, just to keep an eye on Afghanistan, on Iran. But you know it very well that the whole project is to block Chinese out,
and even Russia, because of the Eurasian corridor and all
on the western side due to the Ukraine. Now to bleed them on from the southern side, from the eastern, this is the eastern side of the Chinese. So you have to be the southern side. If you want to bleed them, so you have to keep the Afghan soil warm and hot for them.
Hamza,
So
Hamza, if you want to add something on that.
I just want to add that we can see that just recently Pakistan has actually turned their position from giving carrots to sticks. Now what actually is happening, that Pakistan has used airstrikes. Pakistan has expelled 0.7 million Afghans, and Pakistan has stopped the transit trade as well back in October, but it has been revived again. And finally, the government of Pakistan is now publicly denouncing the Afghan Taliban. Such things can help Pakistan basically help improve the ongoing situation. But again, I will come back to the point that as long as the foreign interference in Afghanistan is going to keep going, things cannot be settled well.
Yeah, definitely. You are absolutely right. So thank you very much, Hamza, for your presence in the studios.
Sticks are being used to beat its own feet.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yes. You are right. Hassan Khan, thank you very much for your presence in the studios and very candid views. Viewers, as you have just listened to our panelists, it is important. Afghanistan is no doubt an important country and a very vital neighbor to Pakistan, and Pakistan and Afghanistan's destiny are together. But the thing is that Afghanistan has to adhere what Pakistan is actually pointing out. We have to examine the historical baggage as well as the things from where the things gone wrong, and we have to accept the current realities as well. There is a lack of will to act by the Afghan interim authority, and that means that there is a very little thing on which Afghan Taliban is actually going to act or to improve the situation. So there are lots of underground ungoverned spaces in Afghanistan, though the Kabul is not ready to accept that, but there are, and those ungoverned spaces are actually utilized by outlawed terrorist organizations and the banned outfits. They are taking refuge over there, and unfortunately Kabul is deliberately helping, facilitating and arming TTP to advance their proxies to inflict pain and terrorism upon Pakistan to get their meager objectives, and might be some of the behind the curtain fundings from different sources within the region and outside. Pakistan has to talk with the United States as well on these aspects, because something which is going wrong in Afghanistan. That's why, because the Taliban are actually too much brave in their actions, which are illegal, illegitimate, but they are doing it. So Taliban attitude is actually hampering the world not to recognize Afghan Taliban interim authority, and because of this attitude, actually the Afghan people are actually suffering with hunger, with no employment, and with the meager economy. So these things must have to be there must have to be a thought in Kabul to consider these things, and in that perspective our panelists are agreed on that there must have to be a regional approach on that. China, Russia and all other countries must have to act now on this aspect. This is from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.